Good afternoon, everyone. It's really nice to see you all here, and this is a live episode of the Eco-nomics unscripted podcast, so it's also being recorded. It's day 2 of Sustainability Week here, but it's actually day 5 for the listeners out there, and today we're just going to talk about students' perspective on sustainability, so steps that people can take from all the things that are going to go on. From all the things that are going to go on this week, things that you can actually do. I'm Lavanya Vardharajan.
I'm Madhuta Chauhan.
We're student reps on the Responsible and Sustainable Management Steering Group. But just to start us off, my first question to you is, what can students do practically as a postgraduate student to engage in the sustainable transition?
Thank you and hi to everyone. So I'm here as a master's student in behavioral science, and I have one of my course as behavioral sustainability, which is taken by Professor Rodolfo Sechel, who is really good. The most special thing about that course is we actually do activities related to how we can build sustainable interventions in universities, in private or public organizations. And so throughout the last 5 weeks, which I've been studying with them and working on different projects and activities, I realized that often we complain that organizations or big bodies, they are not doing more sustainability projects, but it also comes down on individual level. So on individual level, I feel if as a university students, taking responsibility of how we are taking individual capacities, as a student, if I'm going to my classes, I try to minimize. I drink a lot of coffees, right? So I try to take my own cups. I try to bring my own lunch boxes, so I don't buy most of the stuff. So these are the things which I feel which we also do in our classes. We try to build different activities. So these are the things which I do, which we think can we work on this as a postgraduate students. Yeah.
And would you like to tell us a bit about RSM and your role there?
Yeah. So RSM I joined in last December, I think, and throughout these last few months, I have worked in many activities in which the working with Hughes, Cecilia, and the other student reps, and we have worked on different activities like the podcast mainly, and in which even when I was coming to the University of Glasgow, I used to follow the business school, and I used to see lots of sustainability events going on. And when I came here, when I joined RSM, I got the opportunity to meet new people from school, even outside of school. We invited so many guests. I know there was the previous student rep called Raj, who used to interview lots of nice people, and yeah, so lots of ministers. So yeah, learning from them, working with them, and that's a huge thing which I don't think people get these opportunities, which is very cool.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, I'm an undergraduate student. I study economics and psychology, and just being in the business school, there are so many things that I'd like to highlight that students can sort of replicate, but also things that students and staff can work together on. One of the main things that I love doing beyond just sustainability is volunteering. And there's volunteering on campus, which Madhuta just mentioned, but there's also volunteering in the community. So there are organisations like the Glasgow University Environmental Sustainability Team, and I volunteer for someone called Parents for Future Scotland. And these kinds of things really get you out into the community. And then sustainability then becomes beyond just something that you have to do as part of UN SDG, blah, blah, blah. But it's something that it becomes a thing of people and real impact. You're actually making a difference in a tactile way, you're using your hands on sustainability. And I think that's really interesting. And making people smile, it sort of makes it more relevant and not just something you have to do. Something else I'd like to highlight, and this is something that students and staff can extend, is student competitions, like the University of Glasgow Global Challenges Studio, case competitions, having sustainability embedded into these competitions means that when students do these things, of course they learn about sustainability, but also it's something that they can do for their career, and so they're more likely to do these types of things because sustainability is a new thing for us beyond the green bubble, and if you want to get more people into it, you sort of need to have a selling point, and I think these kinds of competitions are great for that. And just so in every podcast we bust a myth. It's my natural, very loud voice. So in every podcast we bust a myth. So is there a myth about sustainability that you believed in maybe before you started with RSM or your peers believed in?
Oh yeah. So before, like when I was an undergrad, I used to think that we often hear a lot about how like organizations, like big organizations, they are not sustainable. They do a lot of carbon emissions and stuff. But as I studied, I get more into my studies. I'm studying behavioral science. I started to read more about policies. I realized that it's not just always the big organizations. It's also more about individual, for example, local businesses, small shops, people on an individual capacity, how they use, for example, electricity or energy sources, like overconsumption. So these small things also build up in a larger system overall. So I feel this is the biggest myth which I used to feel within myself that it's not my role, I can't do anything here. It's only the organizations which they will do. So yeah, that's a myth which I used to think.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And something else that I've been taught about recently is a lot of the times we treat sustainability education as climate education separate from sort of what you learn in class. But I've recently heard that you don't need to teach kids about sustainability if you teach them to take care of their land. So building that relationship with your country, with the people, those kinds of things, I think that's where extracurriculars come in. And so I believe a myth is climate education separate from normal education. I think it's just teaching people about those relationships in every course, and I think that really goes a long way. And just finally, so if you had a key takeaway for our listeners today, what would it be? What would be the main thing to take away from today?
I feel the main takeaway would be to focus on how we can take actions. Like for example, within universities, we do societies like Eco-Hub. There's another which I think is a private student society, in which they focus on circular economy, on individual level, how they can stop overconsumption, how they can use recycling or reusing stuff. So, to the listeners, I would urge them or request them to focus more on these small businesses, how they can take accountable of how they are using stuff. Are they reusing it, or they are just buying out of are they following new trends every day? Because I have seen lots of my friends and even me. Sometimes if I see anything on social media, I'll be like, no, I don't want to buy that. But then I'm like, no, it's also a waste of money, and also I have a lot of things which I can use. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, and just to sum it up, and sort of a major takeaway, not just on an individual level, but an organizational level, I would say, is that it's not enough at this stage in time in 2026 to just know about sustainability. You really need to understand the nuances of it to be relevant, and the sooner people understand that, I think the better it is for people and planet. So with that, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed listening.